Joining us now is our political analyst, Paul Lisnek. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, guys.
There seems to be a great political realignment here for the Republican Party. Why is that?
Well, the realignment is probably going to be for the Democratic Party going forward.
Well, they go hand in hand, I guess.
But going into this, what's really interesting is that Trump actually fared better with every group of voters except college-educated women this time around. We always said, and I've said on our air, that it was going to be a turnout game. The thought being that if women turned out in droves, that would be good for her, and if young men showed up in droves, which they tend not to vote, it would be good for him. It turns out he actually made inroads into all of those groups. And women in some states where you had abortion on the ballot, they voted for the abortion rights, but then voted for Trump. So essentially saying, I want my rights, but I'm not going to put this on him. So his message got through, the economy, the immigration message, very, very strongly, and that carried the day.
Talk about Harris and how she did compared to Joe Biden in a lot of these areas, like cities where she should have had a stronghold.
Yeah, throughout the evening, we were sort of looking at how is she doing, how did Joe Biden do? And candidly, in many areas, Biden did better in 2020 than she did. But Robin, the dynamics were different. You were also coming off of 4 years of Trump at that time. Remember, this is a change election this time around, and people saw Trump as the change. That's clearly what it's showing us. But Biden fared better among certain communities, among African Americans, among Latinos. Trump's strength among the Latino community is really stunning throughout the country. He won Miami-Dade, which in Florida, that's as Democratic as it gets. So once again, that message was resonating. Now, what will happen on day one in his term remains to be seen.
Well, it seems like the economy is driving this, and Democrats try to communicate that, all things considered, the economy isn't that bad. But Trump has promised tariffs, which many economists have said will become a big problem. Does he dial that back down? Does he change course?
Hard to know. The problem is most people really don't understand, with all due respect, what tariffs are. Tariffs are not, because Trump always says, I'm going to impose tariffs and China is going to send us billions of dollars. China doesn't pay the tariffs. We pay the tariffs. So when you put tariff on something, when China sends it here, they get their money, and then it's the importer who has to pay and then decide whether he or she passes it on or not. So it really is an increase in the tax. Will he back off on that? You know, many things that sometimes Trump talks about tend to kind of just fade away anyway. Is he really going to start mass deportation on day one? I doubt it. However, but we can talk. I know I'll be back later, but we want to talk about the power of the Senate and the House, because a lot of things he wants to do, he needs Congress. He's got the Senate. He's going to get that. He'll get all of his appointments through. Judicial appointments are going to be strong for him all the way through. We don't know about the House yet.
We've talked about how the economy and immigration were strong talking points. How much is this a referendum on the progressive agenda of the Democratic Party, and will that change the party going forward?
Well, Robin, it's a great question. Issues like the environment and climate and those kind of things just weren't resonating. However, one interesting poll, some exit polls, were showing that the democracy as an issue, which wasn't really playing strongly earlier, was yesterday. The people were walking out, and it was the economy and democracy, which we're showing as the top two topics, and that would suggest Harris would do well, but it just wasn't holding. So once again, suggesting people saw Donald Trump as the means of preserving a version of democracy.
But Donald Trump was also hitting hard in the ads about the women in sports thing too. Was that
one of his top ads was a transgender ad, which was playing all over this notion of women in sports and somehow kids going to school and their gender being changed during the day. You know, there was no truth to any of that, but yes, it resonated. At least it was a top ad. So at this point, it would suggest that that was an ad that people were concerned about as a top issue, was women playing men's sports.
And just quickly, just to wrap things up locally, just to mention that quickly, these referendums we talked about, like the millionaire tax, and what do those all mean, and the school board race, which is something new.
So the referendum's passed, but it means nothing because they're not binding. So what can happen now? Here's a prediction: Springfield will take that millionaire tax one and then basically say, we have the public's permission to proceed with that. So you could see something on that with regard to candidates acting at polling places and stuff. I mean, they may do something with it, but the only one really is the millionaire's tax. With regard to the school board, the CTU candidates, a few of them won, but not a lot of them, so there could be a little tension between the electeds and the appointeds, as Brandon Johnson wants to control the school board, which arguably he would have been able to do for another 2 years, but now there may be a little more tension.
Interesting. We'll be talking to you again throughout the morning. Thanks, Paul Lisnek. Appreciate it.